My name is Alexis Kane, and I am 23 years old. After graduating from the University of Miami Business School, I had been working at a mid-sized investment firm for 2 years. If someone had told me that at my mother Victoria's 60th birthday party, I would discover I was actually the daughter of New York's wealthiest family, I would have thought they were absolutely insane. But sometimes life proves to be more absurd than fiction. I keep replaying this in my head, how it could happen to literally anyone, anywhere. Tell me where you're hearing this story from. And if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe. Now, back to what happened. At Victoria Kane's 60th birthday celebration, I presented her with a check for $100,000. The entire room erupted in applause and cheers, with guests praising me as a dutiful and capable daughter. My mother Victoria accepted the check with a smile so wide it seemed her face might split in two, and she announced to everyone present, "My daughter Alexis has promised this money will go toward buying her brother Danny an engagement ring." She continued with even greater enthusiasm, "And she's going to provide another $200,000 for the down payment on his new house." I steadied myself against the table and stood up, interrupting her mid-sentence. "Mom, when did I ever say that?" The smile on her face froze completely. "What do you mean? I gave birth to you, so isn't your money essentially family money?" she demanded. "When your brother gets married, isn't it your responsibility as his older sister to contribute financially?" I let out a bitter laugh. "All I know is that for the past 2 years, my entire salary has been deposited directly into your bank account." I continued, my voice growing stronger. "Despite living at home, I receive only $50 per month for personal expenses." My voice rose as I added, "If I'm expected to buy him a house and a car, what about me? Am I destined to be treated like a workhorse for the rest of my life?" I picked up the champagne glass from the table and deliberately poured it onto the floor. "Starting today, I am cutting all ties with this family, completely and permanently." My brother Danny was the first to rush toward me, pointing his finger directly at my nose while hurling insults. "You ungrateful witch! Think your wings have grown strong enough to fly away on your own?" His voice grew more threatening as he continued. "Let me tell you something, that's never going to happen. If you dare walk out that door today, I'll make sure you regret it for the rest of your life." He raised his fist menacingly in my direction. I looked at him, then scanned the cold, indifferent faces of our relatives surrounding us. Perfect. After 23 years, it was finally time to collect everything they owed me, with interest. Danny's fist came swinging toward me. In the past, I would have certainly cowered down, covering my head, or cried while begging for mercy. But today was different. Instead of dodging, I grabbed the champagne bottle from the table and forcefully pushed him away. Danny had never expected me to fight back. He lost his footing, slipped, and crashed into the nearby table. His head struck the table's edge, immediately drawing blood. Although it looked frightening, it was actually just a superficial wound. "Oh my God!" A piercing scream cut through the air of the party hall. My mother Victoria went completely hysterical, rushing to Danny's side. She gathered him in her arms, her hands trembling uncontrollably. "Danny, my precious baby boy." She turned back to glare at me with eyes that seemed to want to devour me alive. "Alexis, have you lost your mind completely?" Her voice cracked as she continued. "This is your own brother." She was practically shrieking now. "How could you dare to push him?" The surrounding relatives finally snapped out of their shock and began bombarding me with accusations from every direction. "Alexis, you've gone way too far this time. Can't family members discuss things civilly? Now that you've injured your brother, can you even take responsibility for your actions? She's nothing but an ungrateful wolf that can never be tamed." I stood there calmly, observing this group of people. Just moments ago, when Danny was about to assault me, every single one of them had simply stood by, watching like spectators at a show. Now that Danny was hurt, suddenly they all found their voices and decided to speak up. I said with complete composure, "This is just the beginning. I'm going to settle every debt you people owe me, one by one." Victoria was shaking with rage from head to toe. She pointed toward the door with a trembling finger. "Get out!" she screamed. "Get out of my sight!" Her voice became even more venomous as she continued. "I'll pretend I never gave birth to a daughter like you." She was practically foaming at the mouth now. "Once you leave, don't you ever dare come back." Her final words dripped with malice. "Even if you end up homeless on the streets, don't expect any help from me." I picked up my handbag and walked toward the exit without looking back even once. Behind me, Danny's wailing mixed with Victoria's vicious cursing filled the air. "Worthless daughter, bad luck charm," she screamed after me. "Why don't you just go die?" I pushed open the glass doors of the Miami Beach Resort Hotel. The wind outside felt somewhat chilly, stinging my face with its bite. I called an Uber and told the driver, "Take me to the nearest CVS pharmacy." My palms felt slightly moist from the sweat that had accumulated during the confrontation. However, I felt absolutely no regret whatsoever. If anything, I felt a sense of satisfaction and relief. 23 years. That suffocating anger that had been lodged in my chest had finally begun to dissipate, even if only slightly. I pulled out my iPhone and scrolled to a number I had saved long ago but had never actually called. My hands were trembling slightly, not from fear, but from excitement and anticipation. The phone connected. A steady, professional male voice answered on the other end. "Williams Law Office, how may I assist you today?" "Mr. Williams," I asked, "this is Alexis Kane." I took a deep breath before continuing. "I'm ready now. Please initiate the plan we discussed previously." After hanging up the phone, I gazed out the window at the Miami streetscape rushing past in reverse. Palm trees swayed in the night breeze, and neon signs created long trails of light and shadow. I gently touched my wrist, which was still slightly red from the earlier altercation. "Victoria, Danny, this is merely the beginning of what's to come." The next morning, I was awakened by my phone buzzing incessantly. When I picked it up, I discovered that our family WhatsApp group chat had completely exploded with messages, all of them attacking me. My Aunt Patricia had written, "Alexis, are you even human? How could you hurt your own brother?" My Uncle Robert demanded, "Get back here immediately and apologize. Bring money to pay for your brother's medical treatment." My Aunt Linda declared, "This kind of unfilial daughter deserves divine punishment." What made matters even worse was that Danny had posted a TikTok video. The video showed only the moment when I pushed him and his subsequent injury, but the part where he had tried to physically attack me first had been edited out completely. He posted voice messages in the group chat and his voice sounded full of energy, nothing like someone who had been seriously injured. "Everyone look at this. This is my own sister." His voice boomed through the audio message. "Just because she didn't want to help me buy a house, she actually resorted to violence against me." His tone became even more dramatic as he added, "This kind of person belongs in prison." This video had already been uploaded to both TikTok and Instagram with an inflammatory headline that read, "Vicious sister attacks own brother at birthday party to hoard family wealth." The comments section was filled with people condemning me. "This kind of sister is absolutely terrifying. Isn't this domestic violence? Someone should report her to the police immediately." I let out a cold laugh, exited the group chat, and blocked everyone involved. I executed this sequence of actions with practiced fluency. After a quick wash and getting dressed, I headed to my office. The moment I walked into the workplace, I could feel that something was terribly wrong. My co-workers were looking at me with strange expressions and whispering among themselves. "That's her, isn't it? She looks so mild-mannered, but she actually resorts to violence. If she won't even spare her own brother, she must be truly dangerous." My supervisor, Mr. Johnson, approached me with a dark expression, carrying a piece of paper that he slammed down directly onto my desk. "Miss Kane, you are hereby suspended from your position." His tone was coldly professional as he continued, "The company does not wish to have its reputation tarnished by your personal affairs." He concluded with finality, "Pack your belongings and leave the premises." I stared at the termination notice without arguing. I understood perfectly well that Danny's video had caused this mess. In this age of social media, once you become associated with negative publicity, companies will distance themselves as quickly as possible to avoid any potential damage. I carried my cardboard box of personal belongings out of the office building located in downtown Miami. My iPhone buzzed again with a text message from Bank of America that read, "Your account ending in 4*4*4* has been reported as suspicious and has been temporarily frozen." I stood there stunned for a moment, then quickly realized what had happened. My social security card and other important documents were all being held at home. Victoria had obviously gone to the bank and reported some kind of problem with my account, trying to force me to return home and beg for forgiveness on my knees. I felt around in my pockets and found I had only $20 in cash, plus a few dozen dollars available through Apple Pay. This represented the entirety of my worldly possessions. I took a deep breath and reminded myself that when one door closes, another always opens. My thoughts turned to Dante. Although he hadn't attended yesterday's party, he was my boyfriend, and we had been together for over a year. In this kind of situation, surely he would help me, wouldn't he? I called an Uber to go to Dante's apartment building, since I had a spare key. As I approached his door, I could hear laughter coming from inside. It was a woman's laughter, high-pitched and strangely familiar. My hands began to shake as I inserted the key into the lock, turned it gently, and the door opened. In the living room, clothes were scattered all over the floor. Two people were sitting on the sofa watching a movie together. The man was Dante, and the woman was Zara, my so-called best friend and roommate. Both of them heard the sound and turned their heads toward the doorway. When Dante saw it was me, a flash of embarrassment crossed his face, but it quickly returned to its normal composed expression. "Why are you here?" he asked with annoyance. "Don't you know you should knock before entering?" Zara was even more composed than he was. She leisurely arranged her hair with deliberate slowness. "Oh, Alexis, since you've seen us, there's no point in hiding it anymore. Dante and I are together now." I stood in the doorway, still holding the cardboard box from my job termination, feeling like a complete fool. "When did this start?" I managed to ask. Dante lit up a Marlboro cigarette and took a drag. "Alexis, don't get angry about this. We were never really compatible anyway." He gestured dismissively as he continued. "Your family situation is just too much for anyone to handle." His voice became more critical as he elaborated. "Your mother is way too controlling, and your brother is nothing but trouble." He shook his head as he concluded. "Being with you created too much stress and drama for me." He pointed at Zara as he continued his explanation. "Zara is different. Her family situation is simple and straightforward, without all that unnecessary drama. When we're together, everything feels relaxed and easy." Zara walked over to where I stood, her tone carrying a note of feigned sympathy. "Alexis, you really shouldn't blame Dante for this. Matters of the heart can't be forced." She glanced meaningfully at the cardboard box in my arms before adding, Besides, given your current situation, you're probably not in the right place for a romantic relationship anyway. I looked at these two people and suddenly felt completely disgusted. I set the cardboard box down on the floor with a thud. Keep this garbage, it's yours now. I wish you both all the happiness you deserve. After saying this, I turned around and walked away without another word. Behind me, I could hear Zara's voice calling out, "Alexis, if you don't have anywhere to stay, I could help you contact a homeless shelter." I rushed out of the apartment building and found myself standing on the busy streets of Miami. The Florida sunshine was particularly harsh, making me feel dizzy and disoriented. My job was gone, my money was gone, and now my boyfriend was gone too. Was this their way of pushing me to the absolute breaking point? A black SUV suddenly pulled up and stopped directly in front of me. The doors opened and three large men stepped out. The one in front had bleached blonde hair and was chewing gum, with an expression that seemed far from friendly. "You're Danny's sister Alexis, aren't you?" he asked with a menacing tone. I took a cautious step backward. "Who are you people?" I demanded. The blonde man let out a cold laugh. "Who I am doesn't really matter. What matters is that your brother owes us $50,000 in gambling debts. He told us you would help him pay it back." My heart sank into my stomach. That animal Danny had actually accumulated gambling debts with these dangerous people. "I don't have any money and I'm not his sister anymore. Go find him if you want your money back." I started to walk away, but the blonde man gestured to his companions and the other two men blocked my path. Planning to leave? It's not going to be that easy. I realized the situation was becoming dangerous and immediately began shouting for help at the top of my lungs. "Help! Someone help me!" At the same time, I pulled out my phone, preparing to call the police. When the men saw that passers-by were beginning to notice the commotion, they didn't dare continue their harassment and quickly got back into their vehicle. However, before driving away, they left me with a chilling warning. "We know where you live, and this matter is far from over." I stood there on the sidewalk with my legs feeling like jelly. These men were obviously not the type of people you wanted to mess with, and Danny's debt had now become my problem. I didn't dare go home, and I couldn't go to friends' places either for fear of involving innocent people in this mess. I remembered that there was an old house in this neighborhood that had belonged to my grandmother. After grandmother passed away, the house had remained empty and unused. Victoria considered the place to have bad energy, and Danny thought it was too run down and beneath him. But when I was a child, that house had been my only safe haven and refuge. Feeling my way through the darkness and relying on childhood memories, I managed to locate the small courtyard. The lock on the main gate had become rusty with age. I felt around in the brick cracks near the flower bed by the entrance and managed to find a spare key that was still there, thank goodness. When I opened the door, the smell of long-sealed air hit me immediately. There was no electricity in the house, so I used my phone's flashlight to navigate. I could see that all the furniture was covered with thick layers of dust. I sat down on the old bed where my grandmother used to sleep. I was cold and hungry, but at least I finally had a safe place to stay. I needed to survive. I couldn't just give up and let everything end like this. I began searching through the house, hoping that maybe grandmother had left behind something useful. Under the bed, I discovered a small wooden chest that was locked. This had been grandmother's treasure, and when I was little and wanted to look inside, she never allowed me to. The lock had rusted badly over the years, so I found an old screwdriver and carefully pried it open. I opened the chest with high hopes. Inside, there were no jewelry or precious items, just a yellowed manila envelope. I felt somewhat disappointed as I picked up the envelope, which felt like it contained something hard inside. When I tore it open, a key slid out and fell to the floor. It was made of brass with an antique design and intricate floral engravings. Along with the key, there was a note written in grandmother's handwriting, though the letters were shaky and uneven. Alexis, if there ever comes a day when you have absolutely nowhere else to turn, go to Wells Fargo headquarters. Use this key to open safety deposit box number A001. I held the key in my fingers, feeling its cold touch spread throughout my entire body. Wells Fargo headquarters was Miami's largest and most important bank. Safety deposit box number A001 sounded like something quite significant. Grandmother had only been an ordinary healthcare worker, so how could she possibly have a key to such an important place? Although I was puzzled by this mystery, this key now represented my only hope. Even if there were only a few $1,000s inside, it would be enough to help me get through this crisis. I carefully secured the key close to my body and lay down on the bed. This time, I fell asleep quite quickly. In my dreams, grandmother looked at me with her kind and gentle expression, stroking my head softly as she said, "Alexis, don't be afraid, my dear. Better days are waiting ahead for you." Early the next morning, I washed my face with tap water and tried to straighten out my clothes as best I could. Although my outfit was somewhat wrinkled and slightly dirty, I did my best to make myself look as presentable as possible. I arrived at Wells Fargo headquarters. The lobby was decorated luxuriously, with well-dressed people coming and going constantly. I stood out like a sore thumb, and the security guard looked at me several times, seemingly debating whether he should approach me to ask questions. I walked directly to the counter and placed the antique brass key on the surface. "I need to open a safety deposit box." The teller was a young woman who initially seemed somewhat disinterested, but the moment she saw the key, her eyes widened dramatically. She actually stood up from her chair, and her voice began to tremble slightly. This is... Please wait just a moment, I'll call the manager immediately." Within less than a minute, a middle-aged man wearing an expensive Armani suit hurried over to our location. When he saw the key lying on the counter, his expression immediately became extremely respectful, even carrying a hint of apprehension. "Miss Kane, I presume. Please follow me to our VIP room." He walked ahead of me with a slight bow, leading the way. People around us cast curious glances in our direction. I followed him into the VIP room, and just as I was settling into my seat, there was a commotion outside the door. "Why won't you let us in?" came the angry voices. "I'm her mother. That ungrateful girl stole something from our house. We're going to call the police." I recognized Victoria's voice immediately, along with Danny's shouting, "Alexis, get out here right now. Hand over that money this instant." I frowned with irritation. They were like persistent parasites that simply wouldn't go away, no matter how hard you tried to shake them off. The manager looked at me questioningly. "Miss Kane, would you like me to call security?" I shook my head. "No, let them come in. Some matters are better resolved face to face." The door opened, and Victoria and Danny burst into the room, followed by that blonde-haired debt collector. It appeared they had joined forces. The moment Victoria saw me, she tried to lunge forward and grab me. "You wicked girl, I knew you had hidden money somewhere." Her voice rose to a shriek as she continued. "You even have a safety deposit box," she demanded frantically. "Where did you get that key?" The manager immediately stepped between us, his attitude becoming stern and authoritative. "Madam, please control yourself. This is a bank, and I must ask you to watch your behavior and language." Danny pointed at the manager and began yelling aggressively. "Who do you think you are?" he demanded rudely. "This is our family business." His voice became even more belligerent as he added, "She's my sister, so her money belongs to me." The blonde debt collector was also stirring up trouble from the sidelines. "Debts must be repaid. That's only natural and fair. Hurry up and open that safety deposit box so we can use whatever's inside to settle the debt. I stood up and looked at this group of people with determination. Fine, since you all want to see what's inside, then let's go look together. I turned to address the manager. Please take us there. Our entire group proceeded to the underground vault. The heavy metal doors slowly opened with a mechanical hum. Safety deposit box, a 001, was located in the most prominent position and was considerably larger than all the other boxes surrounding it. The manager used my key in combination with his fingerprint and security code to open the box door. Everyone craned their necks forward to see inside. Danny's eyes were practically glowing with greed and excitement. "It must be gold bars," he exclaimed with glee. "We're going to be rich." Victoria was also rubbing her hands together with anticipation and excitement. However, when the box was finally opened, the inside was completely empty except for one thick leather document folder. There were no gold bars, no stacks of cash, just a few papers. Danny's jaw dropped in disbelief. "Where's the money?" he demanded in confusion. "How can there be nothing but worthless papers?" He lunged forward, unwilling to accept this reality, trying to grab the document folder. I was quicker and snatched it away first, opening it carefully. Inside was a DNA test report, along with a handwritten letter. I pulled out the report, and the names printed on it made my heart skip several beats. Sample A, Alexis Kane. Sample B, Jonathan Sterling. Sample C, Elizabeth Sterling. Test result, 99.99% confirmed biological parent-child relationship. Jonathan Sterling, Elizabeth Sterling. These two names were far too familiar to me, appearing frequently on the Forbes wealth rankings. They were New York's wealthiest individuals, the chairman and wife of Sterling Group. My hands were shaking violently as I turned to examine the letter, which was written in grandmother's handwriting. "My dearest Alexis, when you read this letter, I will probably no longer be with you. You are not a Kane family child. 23 years ago, I worked as a nanny for the Sterling family. Victoria was my distant relative, and she had also just given birth to a child. She was consumed with jealousy over the Sterling family's wealth and prosperity. During the chaos of Mrs. Sterling's delivery, she switched her own daughter with you. When I discovered what had happened, it was already too late. She threatened me, saying that if I ever revealed the truth, she would harm you. I could only suffer in silence and raise you as my own granddaughter. This DNA report was done secretly, using hair samples I collected from the Sterling family members. Alexis, go find your real biological parents. They have been searching for you all this time. They are good people who will give you the love and life you truly deserve. Remember, no matter what happens, grandmother will always love you." The letter slipped from my fingertips and fluttered to the floor. I suddenly looked up at Victoria with shock and recognition. Her face had turned deathly pale, her entire body was trembling, and her eyes were darting around, unable to meet my gaze. You're talking nonsense," she stammered desperately. "These are just worthless pieces of paper." Her voice became shrill with panic as she insisted, "They're fake, all of it is fake." She rushed toward me, trying to tear up the DNA report. I stepped backward, avoiding her grasping hands. "Fake?" I asked with a cold laugh. "Then why are you so nervous and panicked?" Danny still hadn't grasped what was happening. "Mom, what do these papers say?" he asked in confusion. "Am I actually a rich kid?" Victoria slapped him hard across the face. "Shut your mouth." At that moment, we heard the sound of orderly footsteps approaching from outside the vault. More than a dozen men in black suits entered the area, quickly but politely taking control of the entire situation. The blonde debt collector was so terrified that his legs went weak, and he crouched down on the floor, not daring to move. The security detail stepped aside to create a clear pathway, and an elegantly dressed elderly woman entered the vault. Although her hair was completely silver, she carried herself with aristocratic grace and dignity, with every gesture radiating refined nobility. Behind her followed a middle-aged couple. The man was dignified and handsome, while the woman was gentle and beautiful. They were Jonathan Sterling and Elizabeth Sterling themselves. The elderly woman's gaze swept across the entire scene before finally settling on my face. Her eyes immediately filled with tears, and her voice trembled with emotion. "The resemblance is remarkable, absolutely remarkable. You look exactly like Elizabeth did when she was young." She extended a shaking hand toward me. "My dear child, I am your grandmother. We have finally found you after all these years." I was so stunned by this sudden turn of events that I couldn't speak. Jonathan Sterling strode forward with purpose, looked at the DNA report in my hands, and tears began streaming down his face. "There's no mistake, it's definitely that face. After 23 years, our daughter has finally come home." Elizabeth Sterling went even further and wrapped me in a tight embrace, sobbing with heartbreak. "My precious baby girl. Mommy is so sorry. I let you suffer through so much." Her embrace was warm and comforting, carrying the subtle scent of Chanel No. 5 perfume. This was something I had never experienced before. The genuine feeling of a mother's love. My own tears began flowing uncontrollably. Victoria collapsed to the floor, her face ashen with defeat. She knew that everything was finished and over. Danny was still standing there in a daze. "Mum, what's really going on here?" he asked in bewilderment. "Am I a Sterling family prince or not?" Jonathan Sterling turned around, his expression becoming ice cold. "Security, please escort these two individuals out of the building. We will handle this matter through proper legal channels." The security team politely but firmly escorted Victoria and Danny away from the premises. As Victoria was being led out, she glared at me with pure malice and hatred. "This is impossible. You're nobody. You don't deserve any of this." I settled into the extended Bentley luxury vehicle. The interior was spacious and comfortable, but I still felt somewhat surreal about everything that was happening. Elizabeth continued holding my hand tightly, unwilling to let go. "Alexis, are you hungry?" she asked with concern. "Are you tired? How have these years been for you?" When she noticed some small scars and marks on my hands, her eyes filled with tears of distress. I shook my head gently. "I've been fine, and now I'm even better." The car pulled into an enormous estate with perfectly manicured gardens, elegant fountains, and a mansion that looked like something from a fairy tale. This was the Sterling family home, the place where I should have grown up all along. As soon as we entered the grand foyer, a young woman in a white Dior dress came forward to greet us. She was quite beautiful and appeared delicate and vulnerable. This was Victoria Kane Jr., the false heiress who had taken my place for 23 years, and also Victoria Kane's biological daughter. When she saw me, her eyes immediately welled up with tears that began flowing down her cheeks. "Sister Alexis has come home. This is wonderful news. Dad, Mom, now that my sister is back, I should probably leave. I shouldn't continue occupying the position that rightfully belongs to her." She moved as if to go collect her luggage. Elizabeth felt somewhat uncomfortable and gently stopped her. "Victoria, what are you doing? Although the truth has come to light, we've raised you for 23 years, and we do have genuine feelings for you. From now on, you two will be sisters, so please stay with us for now." Jonathan also sighed deeply. "That's right. This situation isn't your fault. You're also a victim of these circumstances." Victoria immediately brightened up with relief. "Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom. I promise I'll treat my sister very well." She turned to look at me, and I caught a glimpse of complex emotions flickering in her eyes that weren't easily detectable. Dinner was quite elaborate, featuring high-end delicacies throughout. I ate somewhat awkwardly, since this kind of lifestyle was completely foreign to me. Victoria kept attentively introducing various dishes to me. "Sister, you should try this Maine lobster. This is foie gras imported from France, it's quite precious and rare. And this is Iranian caviar, which is wonderful for your skin." Although she appeared friendly on the surface, I sensed that her words contained subtle implications, as if she was reminding me that I was some kind of country bumpkin from the backwoods. Halfway through the meal, she approached with a bottle of Dom Pérignon champagne. "Sister, let me toast to you, welcome home." Just as she reached my side, she suddenly stumbled and the champagne spilled all over my outfit. The haute couture dress I had just changed into was instantly stained with a large wet patch. "Oh no!" Victoria exclaimed dramatically, her expression exaggerated with shock. "I'm so sorry, sister. I really didn't do that on purpose." She grabbed napkins and began frantically trying to clean the stain from my dress. I stood up and looked at her innocent expression, understanding clearly in my heart that this was definitely not an accident. "It's fine, I'll go change clothes." Victoria breathed a sigh of relief, thinking I hadn't noticed her deception. However, I had already decided that I needed to let her know I wasn't someone who could be easily bullied or manipulated. The next day, instead of rushing to the office, I asked Jonathan to provide me with some resources. I assembled a top-tier legal team and professional private investigators. I needed to deal with those two parasites first and foremost. Although Victoria Kane and Danny had been politely removed from the bank, they weren't going to give up easily. Sure enough, within a couple of days, they had joined forces with some unsavory characters to spread rumors online, claiming I was a fraud trying to swindle the Sterling family fortune. They even hired internet trolls to spread false information across various social media platforms, alleging that the DNA report was forged. For a time, the internet was filled with voices questioning my legitimacy and authenticity. However, the Sterling family's legal team was not to be underestimated. They quickly gathered evidence, including hospital birth records, documentation of Victoria Kane's whereabouts during the relevant time period, and DNA testing from multiple authoritative institutions. Soon, the truth became crystal clear to everyone. What was even more shocking was that the investigation uncovered other criminal activities that Victoria Kane had been involved in. Over the years, she had been embezzling public funds and was even involved in fraud and money laundering schemes. Danny wasn't any better either, as he not only had gambling problems but had also participated in various illegal activities. In court, the evidence was overwhelming and undeniable. Victoria Kane was sentenced to 15 years in prison for multiple charges, including child trafficking, fraud, and embezzlement of public funds. Danny was sentenced to 8 years in prison for his participation in fraud and other criminal activities. At the moment of sentencing, Victoria Kane became hysterical in the courtroom, screaming, "This isn't fair, what right does she have to live that kind of life?" But the judge's gavel fell with finality, and everything was settled once and for all. After resolving these two troublesome individuals, I officially began my career at Sterling Group. Jonathan gave me a position as assistant manager, allowing me to start learning from the ground level. Although Victoria at the company was polite to me on the surface, I could sense her inner resentment and dissatisfaction. She held a higher position than me within the company and had more extensive connections and relationships. Many employees trusted her more, since she had been living this life for over 20 years. Victoria frequently created small obstacles for me in our work environment. For example, she would accidentally delete my files or forget to notify me about important meetings. She was very subtle about these actions, always maintaining an innocent appearance on the surface. I decided to give her a taste of her own medicine. The opportunity presented itself quickly. The company was bidding for an important government contract that, if successful, would generate profits in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Jonathan assigned this project to Victoria and asked me to assist her. Victoria was extremely excited, viewing this as a perfect opportunity to prove her capabilities and solidify her position within the company. During the preparation of the bidding documents, she deliberately assigned me some key information to handle, wanting to test my abilities. What she didn't realize was that I had already done thorough preparation in advance. Using my new identity within Sterling Group, I had secretly contacted relevant personnel involved in the project to understand their real needs and requirements. On the day of the bidding presentation, Victoria confidently delivered her proposal. Her prepared plan was indeed quite good, but it lacked some crucial innovative elements. When it was my turn to speak, I presented a completely different perspective that directly addressed the client's core pain points and needs. In the end, we not only won the project, but my contribution was recognized by everyone present. Victoria's expression was quite unpleasant, but in front of everyone, she could only force a smile and congratulate me. After this incident, people's perception of me within the company began to change significantly. Everyone realized that I wasn't just some lucky rich girl, but someone who truly possessed capability and intelligence. 1 year later, I officially took over portions of Sterling Group's business operations and became a young executive within the company. On my 23rd birthday, Jonathan and Elizabeth hosted a warm family celebration for me. During the birthday party, I received a letter mailed from prison. The sender was Victoria Kane. The message was brief. "Alexis, you won. But remember, there are some things that blood relationships cannot provide. True belonging and acceptance take time to develop." After reading this letter, my emotions were somewhat complicated. She was right in a way. Although I had found my biological parents and returned to the life I deserved, truly integrating into this family would still require time and effort. However, I wasn't in any hurry. I had an entire lifetime to build these relationships and enjoy this long overdue family warmth. Those who had once hurt and mistreated me had already received the punishment they deserved. I stood in my office at Sterling Group, looking down at the nighttime view of New York City. The metropolis was brilliantly illuminated, filled with unlimited possibilities and potential. From being an abandoned girl in the poor neighborhoods of Miami to becoming an heiress of New York's upper society, this journey had been filled with pain and suffering, but it ultimately made me into a stronger person. Some people say that destiny is predetermined, but I believe that our choices and actions determine the final outcome. Those who tried to oppress me and exploit me ultimately paid the price for their own greed and selfishness, and I had finally found the place where I truly belonged. The telephone rang, and it was Elizabeth calling. "Alexis, are you coming home for dinner tonight? I made your favorite pasta." I smiled as I answered, "Yes, Mum, I'll be home right away." After hanging up the phone, I gathered my things and prepared to leave the office. Outside, the city lights were just beginning to twinkle, and the metropolis looked particularly beautiful in the evening darkness. I knew that no matter what challenges might be waiting for me in the future, I was ready to face them all. Because I was no longer that helpless, isolated girl from before. I was Alexis Sterling, and I had a family who truly loved me. I had my own career, and I had a life that belonged entirely to me. And all of this had been earned through my own courage and intelligence. That's our story for today. We hope you enjoyed this incredible tale. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe for more captivating stories like this, and don't forget to like and share this video. Thank you for being here with us. See you next time.